Today in cannabis news, in Illinois, recreational cannabis sales see a significant drop. In New York, state legislators include provisions in spending bills to allow cannabis companies to use state tax deductions similar to those accessible by other sectors. And in Montana, the state Supreme Court is slated to release a set of documents that will allow people to obtain cannabis crime expungements with no need for lawyer assistance. It's Friday, March 18th, and this is your Trichomes Morning Buzz.
Broadcasting live from the Trichomes.com studios in Southern California. It's time for your Morning Buzz. We bring you late-breaking news that keeps you up to date with what's happening in the cannabis industry.
First up, after dispensaries throughout the state of Illinois sold a historic $137 million of adult-use cannabis goods in December 2021, sales have dropped considerably. Growing fears that a supply shortage and soaring costs are driving customers to the black market. In January, the state's 110 registered cannabis stores made $117 million in revenue and roughly $114 million in February, the weakest monthly total since March 2021. Despite periodic monthly fluctuations, the state's strictly controlled adult-use cannabis market has collected above $2 billion in revenue during its initial 2 years. Suits regarding the permit procedure have slowed the launch of adult-use cannabis commerce, which were previously reserved for social equity candidates, a classification meant to widen the majority white sector.
Next up, amid the current federal restriction in the U.S., New York state lawmakers have presented spending plans that incorporate provisions allowing cannabis companies to use state tax deductions similar to those accessible by other sectors. The state assembly and Senate spending bills, which are anticipated to advance before the cutoff in early April, aim to create an exception that would allow cannabis firms to deduct their expenses as New York readies to establish its recreational cannabis sector. Firms engaging in trafficking in controlled substances within the meaning of Schedule 1 and 2 of the Controlled Substances Act are restricted from deducting the majority of operating costs from their federal taxes or obtain tax credits within 280E, a federal statute mandated by the Internal Revenue Service, though they are obligated to pay taxes. New York lawmakers included measures in their spending bills declaring that the provisions of Section 280E of the Internal Revenue Code relating to expenditures in connection with the illegal sale of drugs shall not apply for the purposes of this chapter to the carrying on of any trade or business that is commercial cannabis activity by a licensee.
Last up, the Montana State Supreme Court is slated to release a set of documents that will allow people to obtain cannabis crime expungements with no need for lawyer assistance. The state Supreme Court provided updated record expunging advice for the Montana's district courts this week, ahead of the release of the documents. According to the Supreme Court Administrator, Beth McLaughlin, the regulatory form approved this week primarily affirms that persons pursuing cannabis offense expungements that are lawful within Montana's cannabis legalization statutes may submit a request in the court in which they receive their conviction. The state's cannabis laws reduce certain crimes to misdemeanors and largely abolish low-level offenses. Those who are currently serving a term for a crime that has not been reduced to a lower violation can also ask the court to have their charges commuted. The documents, which McLaughlin stated might be released as early as next week, will comprise directions for filing an expungement release and what's required to get started. That was today's Buzz. Thanks for listening. For more cannabis news and insights from industry professionals and a place to discuss these stories and others, visit trichomes.com.
And be sure to catch up with all of our other cannabis industry-related podcasts like Hash It Out, Tech and Cannabis, or the International Cannabis Conversation wherever you get your podcasts. For Trichomes.com, I'm RJ Balde.
And I'm Devin Liao. Have a great day.